Welcome to the podcast. Súbele volumen. Conversation with the people who were with me. In the world TV. Carlos Tonight. Historias de un reportero. Carlos Tonight.
Hi, everybody. Bienvenidos. Welcome to Carlos Tonight. I'm so happy that you're joining me. I really appreciate the support. Before we get things started, a little reminder. Carlos Tonight is available every other Wednesday, everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify, iHeart Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and now we're on YouTube. Visit carlostonight.com for more on the show and to learn about upcoming guests. That's carlostonight.com. Okay, I'm excited to introduce you to this week's guest. She's a director, a writer, and a producer. She pretty much does it all. Her latest movie, When You Clean a Stranger's Home, is being featured in this year's San Diego Latino Film Festival. Sharon Arteaga, welcome to the show. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for taking the time. You know, your film, When You Clean a Stranger's Home, takes me back to my childhood, and I'm sure it does for a lot of people as well. First, tell us a little bit about the movie and why you felt it was important to share it with the world.
So When You Clean a Stranger's Home it's a video essay, and it's basically told through a first-generation Mexican-American girl's point of view as she's writing an essay about what her and her mom learn about their clients when they're cleaning their houses for a living. And she starts off kind of observational about like seeing how, you know, maybe they have nicer things than she has in her own house. And in some parts, it feels like there's almost jealousy that comes out of her as well. But then she ends up even discovering some feelings about herself, or learning things about the way she sees herself as well. Throughout the thing. And I found it important to bring the story to life. I think with all my films, they're kind of just things that are tugging away at me. I think a lot of my films have to deal with a lot of like socioeconomical shame that I felt growing up, because I was under the impression that no one else was going through it. And so I felt like it was something I had to hide from other people. But now that I'm older, I've actually been able to connect with other people who have had the same experience, which is what excites me about being able to talk to you, since you also shared that experience growing up.
I did. And we spoke a little bit about it before the show. So when I was a kid, my mom met a woman at her job. Her name was Loretta. She was an older lady who was the nicest person, very friendly. And one day, Loretta offered my mom a chance to earn extra income on the weekends by cleaning her home. And on occasion, she'd take me with her. And when my mom couldn't work, I would step in and clean, quote, a stranger's home. It was fun. It was fun for sure. I want to know, well, this movie is based on your experiences with your mom. I want to know what it was like for you.
My earliest memory, and we definitely couldn't show this for copyright, but one of my earliest memories of cleaning with my mom is when I was too young to actually help her do the cleaning, or, you know, she gave us tiny jobs and we were done right away. I remember this one girl's bedroom. She had a Teddy Ruxpin. Do you remember that? It was like you would put the cassette tape in the teddy bear's belly and then his mouth would move. And I would just sit there and stare at it like while, you know, playing a cassette. And I think a big thing was just seeing all the toys that I didn't have and seeing like a life that I didn't quite have. So that's a big memory. Another one is, I think whenever I was much older and was actually like doing a lot of the cleaning, I broke a microwave plate. And those are kind of hard to replace. You know, the turning glass plate. Yeah, those are so hard to replace. And just like, so when I read my siblings' essay about the candle breaking, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to channel just that fear that I remember when I had to tell this woman that I broke the microwave plate and was going to have to now figure out a way to replace it, and it was actually a much more uncomfortable situation at the time because they didn't take that very well.
Yeah, that would be scary. When I was talking to my mom about her time cleaning Loretta's home in preparation for this interview, I asked her what were some of the things she remembered about Loretta's house. She told me that she remembered the Lincolns that were parked out front. Loretta had one. Her husband, who was a retired service member, had one. My mom also remembers Loretta having a lot of crystal dinnerware and serving dishes and crystal candy dishes and trays. The only thing I remember was having this feeling of, am I getting this right? How am I cleaning Loretta's house, So besides the Teddy Ruxpin you mentioned earlier, were there other items you remember that you got to feature in the movie?
Ooh. Oh. I don't think I really got to showcase something I wanted to, because, in the script, I wrote it a certain way, but as we secured our locations, it was basically up to what was available at that location. Like one of the locations we showed up, it was supposed to be a motorcycle collection that the husband has on their windowsill. But the family where we were filming, when I arrived, I was like, do you all collect anything? And they happened to collect sand from all their travels. And I was like, oh my gosh, that tells so much more than what a motorcycle collection would have, Here's a family that gets to travel, and this daughter probably hasn't left. I didn't fly anywhere till I was 26, and I didn't go overseas till I was like 35. So it definitely, gave a contrast to what she was living through. But I definitely wanted to showcase swimming pools in the film, and I got to, I think, show at least one of them.
One of the cool things my mom got from cleaning Loretta's home was the friendship she developed with her. My mom, she learned English from Loretta, and when Loretta's husband passed away, my mom was there for her, providing comfort and a shoulder to cry on. Did your mom ever develop a friendship with the people she cleaned for?
Yeah, definitely. Even, she just moved to Vegas, maybe at the end of 2019. And she was still cleaning houses before making that move to Vegas. I think if it weren't for the pandemic, she would be building a clientele in Vegas. But the people she was working for at that time, they attended my mom's or my grandma's funeral, and they just, whenever my mom moved, they made care packages for them, and I could tell that there was a lot of an understanding and a nice friendship between them, and I feel like that has been the case for a lot of her clients. Fortunately, every once in a while it would be someone that wasn't as kind, but yeah, fortunately for a lot of them, they stopped being strangers and actually, had a better relationship. She had to put her foot down a few times, yeah. And then the friendship came from that. But
Historias de un reportero.
I'm talking with Sharon Arteaga, the director, producer, and writer of When You Clean a Stranger's Home, an official selection at this year's San Diego Latino Film Festival. Sharon, how difficult was it bringing your story to life on the big screen?
On a technical level, I think the most difficult part was securing our locations, because I wanted to have a variety of homes. And we actually technically have not completed the film. We have some alternate shots put in, or placeholder shots put in at the moment, because we were supposed to have our pickup shots in March of last year, and then with the pandemic we just didn't film those things. We still needed a downtown apartment, but fortunately I had footage from a test shoot that we were able to put up as a placeholder. So I think on the technical level, it was locations, but I think on more the emotional level, it's sometimes difficult because you're like, well, I don't want my parent to think that I don't want them to feel hurt by anything that is in the content of it. It's kind of what I want the film to do is to make anyone that's in that profession feel more proud. But I know that when we're looking at the daughter explaining how this is bringing jealousy to her, like it was just difficult balancing, like, okay, I want to express my emotions as a first generation offspring of immigrant parent, but at the same time, I want them to know that I'm honoring them and that I'm now telling this story after having come to the realization that, my parent was really working hard and I learned a lot of things by what I used to hate that they would make me do, go with them to these places.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I served on the board of directors for the Media Arts Center San Diego, the organization that runs the Latino Film Festival. And I have to tell you, as soon as I saw the trailer for When You Clean a Stranger's Home, I had to reach out and invite you on the show. How excited are you to show it, even though it's going to be a virtual audience?
I'm pretty excited. I mean, I'd always wanted to go to the San Diego Latino Film Festival, so a little bit bummed that I won't be going out there for it, but I'm so excited about the virtual platform because you can just you expand your audience to not everyone's going to go to a festival on the one particular day that it's screening, and especially for a short. So I think it increases the audience, and then I love doing Q&As virtually because again more people can tune in.
What's one thing you want people to walk away with from checking out your film next weekend, March 13th at the San Diego Latino Film Festival?
Well, I would say for moms who are in that profession, I would want them to walk away with a sense of pride for what they've been able to do, and then for the kids that they're raising, because it is very complicated growing up with children that are a generation away and in a whole different space than they grew up. But for first generation kids, like I would want them to feel seen and understood, and like the opposite of what I was feeling growing up, which was feeling like I was alone on this. And even as an adult, looking back on it at like how I was ashamed of my upbringing, I think I've been needing to just tell myself like, it's okay. Like that was a valid feeling because this is a very complicated space you were navigating. So, those are the two levels of things that I would want people to take away.
Awesome. Speaking of growing up, did you always know you wanted to be a filmmaker, or is it something you picked up as a hobby?
I was always very fascinated by cameras when like my tios would, let us borrow their RCA camera and I just loved storytelling in general. I think I was like acting out plays in my bedroom, and but when I turned 15, luckily I had an older sister who had been through her quinceañera like a year before I was supposed to, and when I just saw money flying past me as they were making plans for the quinceañera. And I saw people really stressed out, and I was like, that money can go through something much less stressful. And so I negotiated with my mom. I was like, could I have a video camera instead? And she bought it for me. And so like, that was kind of a huge turning point for me to just pursue filmmaking. But yeah, I think it was just a matter of being in love with story and, movies.
I get you. Something people may not know is that the majority of your film crew were all women. Was that intentional? And if so, why was that important for you?
It was 90, like, I haven't done the actual math, but it was somewhere from 97 to 98.5%, all the way through post-production, through the delivery of the film, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I think with this one, I mean, I grew up with all sisters. I have one brother, and 6 sisters. But from the beginning, like I mentioned, like me proofreading a sibling's essay, and it felt already like a project that was rooted in sisterhood, and it was about an experience I had with my mother and my sisters. And so when I was applying for grants, I was just like, letting them know I really wanted to finally just make this project a platform to prioritize hiring women, and having like a mentorship and like a sisterhood forming out of that mentorship. So I wanted to have established women filmmakers working with some that were wanting to either go into a different part of a different film department, or people who had probably never been on set before as well. So yeah, and also you get the same recommendations that are circulated throughout your city, and I think it's more productive to a film community to like find new voices and like uplift other people that probably don't always get the work. And so I was just like, all right, I want to go the extra mile, and like, because I know people are out there hustling. And so I did a lot of hiring through Instagram hashtags for a lot of the post-production. Yeah, especially through post-production, because I was like, one hashtag I looked up was Latina composer, and the only person I found 2 people, and I was like, well, I like them both so much, and I ended up going with a girl out of the LA area. Her name is Amanda Duran, and she was great. I was so happy to have discovered someone else instead of like, oh, I know this person that does it in my town and they do it all the time. Yeah.
That's really awesome that you did that. Creating opportunities. I'm always a big fan of that. I'm always curious to know how artists create their work. For example, I listen to music. Sometimes I go on long walks, and before COVID, I would hang out at a coffee house and just people watch. How do you come up with your ideas and your scripts, and then the planning that goes along with it?
Well, it usually starts with an image for me. For most of my films, if I hear something or if I'm experiencing something, then like an image gets embedded in my head, and down the line, months or years later, I find myself like obsessing over that image, and then it connects to some kind of like therapy I probably had to go through. Like I talked about, socioeconomical shame. And there have been so many images that tied into that, like anything from seeing refinery lights go by to, for my last film, like it was a lot of images that my mom told me about her first day in the United States. But for this particular project, I actually adapted an essay that I proofread for a sibling, and so that it had a different origin from my other projects. But when I was proofreading their essay, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is very much a lot of feelings that I have, and I changed a few things about it and made it more rhythmic and changed the title and everything. But I was really excited to work on, I guess, my first adaptation of something.
I used to get this question a lot. Who inspires you? So Sharon, I'll ask you too. Who inspires you to keep making movies?
Well, my mom. I mean, she really is the biggest inspiration. Like, I think I want to say every movie I've made has either been that has her influence on it. So it's either an experience we've been through, a story she's told me, right now I'm working on one that's about growing up in a mobile home with her. But of course, it's not like directly autobiographical. It's more, metaphorical. And she's definitely my biggest inspiration.
Yay, moms! So we're in the middle of awards season. I have to ask you, since the Golden Globe Awards were on a few nights ago, this year we had 3 female directors nominated. Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Women, Regina King for One Night in Miami, and Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. I hope I got her last name right. First, how did you react to that? And do you think we'll see more female nominees down the road?
I think we will see more female directors nominated down the road. We are, half the population, and, we're storytellers. So if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be very suspicious as to what is going on. But, like 100 years into cinema, we should be moving in that direction. We shouldn't even be where we are. But I actually didn't watch the Golden Globes yesterday, and I've only gotten news about the Nomadland, Chloe's win. Who else won?
Nomadland won Best Picture Drama, and Best Director went to Chloe Zhao, the first woman, by the way, to win Best Director since 1984. What else? Sacha Baron Cohen won. Chadwick Boseman won. Jodie Foster won on the film side. And The Crown took home a lot of awards as well on the TV side. Schitt's Creek, Best Comedy. Norman Lear and Jane Fonda were both honored for their long careers. I know I'm missing a lot of winners.
I mean, the another thing though is just there aren't a lot of larger studio films directed by women being greenlit either. So it definitely has to start from there before we could get to. And it's not a matter of us not having the stories or making them. Like, we definitely do. There just needs to be some kind of maybe reform in the gatekeeping process or something. But I do see change coming. We just have to keep pushing forward, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, are there any directors right now that influence the work that you produce?
The work that I produce right now, I feel is most inspired by a deceased director from Mexico. I'm a big fan of Roberto Gómez Bolaños, who was El Chespirito. It's not as evident in this film, but in my previous film, Plain Pretend, I did pay homage to him quite a bit. But I just really love lighthearted stories, and I love humor. I think a director that I really like today that kind of works within that vein is right now is Taika Waititi. How he could just tell these really these stories with a hard subject, but in a very playful way. So that's the person that comes to mind right now. That's always such a hard question for me, though.
Yeah, it's a hard question. Sometimes after someone would ask me, I'd be like, why did I say that? Or, no, that's not right. Robert De Niro is my favorite actor.
Yeah. I always start up a list on my phone. I'm like, okay, I need to have this answer at hand at all times. But yeah, I mean, Wes Anderson's also a great influence because he's got that playful kind of travieso way of storytelling. So yeah, I feel like that's one of the people that's alive that I take a lot from.
Historias de un reportero. Carlos Tonight, Carlos Tonight. Dale que viene lo bueno.
I'm having so much fun talking with Sharon Arteaga. She's the director, producer, and writer of When You Clean a Stranger's Home, an official selection at this year's San Diego Latino Film Festival. Her movie will be available on March 13th. I'll have details on that in the show notes. Sharon, what advice would you give to people, young or old, who may be interested in pursuing a film career or who may just want to be part of a project, say, on the weekends or something like that?
I would say, I mean, if they're looking for stuff to do on the weekend or side stuff, like filmmakers always need stuff. And I think that it's a very economical way to get your foot in the door is to just go and see who needs help and learn from them. I paid a pretty penny to go to film school, and I'm still, bound to that debt. And I feel like the most experience that I've gotten has been being on other people's sets. And that's something that I watch so many people now do, like so many young people. They're just like out there asking questions, being on film sets, and they're not in as much debt. You know what I mean? But I think also learning the business side of filmmaking, because that's a tool that isn't very innate in a lot of us creatives, and boy, do you need it.
Mm-hmm. And Sharon, before we wrap things up, I went on Carlos Tonight's Instagram asking for questions from our listeners, and here's what we got for you. This one's from Christina. What films have been the most inspiring to you?
Gosh, that's another one of those torture questions. Let's see, most inspiring. I mean, okay, well, the film I've probably seen the most times than any other film in my entire life is Fiddler on the Roof. So that's way up there. Yeah, it's got excellent writing and great characters, and I feel like I'm betraying all the other films.
Cool. All right. Jacob wants to know, is it hard being a female director in a predominantly male industry? That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard when you're doing the work. Like I'm not writing my script and like struggling because I'm a female. It's more because I actually, even before I went to film school, I had no idea that it was such an imbalanced industry. And then I showed up and it was like, oh, I'm one of two women in a class of 17 men. So I think a lot of times when it's not in my face, like it's not something I think about. But then, it is difficult when sometimes a male like panelist or like juror, a male juror, when I get feedback and they just don't understand the character, and I'm like, well, it's something that I feel is just like an easily understood thing, and it's just, I think it's because of their POV that maybe they just don't get it. So I don't know. I guess that's one place. And then of course being in film school might have been the biggest part about being hard. The time where it was most hard to be a female, because trying to learn the technical craft, but then just the guys were always rushing towards the cameras, and like a lot of us were just kind of waiting our turn, being courteous.
And then this last one is from Rosie. How come there aren't any more Latino filmmakers?
Yeah, I think it's just that a lot of us aren't in the mainstream yet, but like if you look around your city, I'm sure you'll find a struggling Latino director somewhere. I think that a lot of us are still, making our way up. And some of it could have to do with just, economically, it's been very difficult. Like I didn't grow up, in some kind of network of people. It's not like I could ask my parents to like help me on my college application even. So, you're kind of starting from your starting point is further behind from someone who has parents who are very well connected. I get asked by parents, can my kid intern for you, or things like that. I'm like, oh, that's what I didn't have growing up, with somebody, doing that for me. And that's okay. It just means a lot of us are starting further behind, and we're still working our way up. And that's why you haven't seen us yet.
Good answers and good questions. Thanks to our listeners for submitting those. And one more thing, Sharon, people can also send in their own stories based on your film,
yes,
right?
with When You Clean a Stranger's Home, a big part of what I'm hoping to do is to collect other people's stories about cleaning houses with their parents, or if they were people who cleaned houses, letting us know about that. And if you go to our Instagram, our handle's @WhenYouClean. And then on Facebook, it's facebook.com/whenyouclean. And just, shoot us a message, especially if you watched the film, whatever memories come up for you, like do a free write and hit send to us.
Very cool. I can't wait to watch it with my mom and see her reaction to the film.
Yes, please do share it with her and let me know what she thinks too.
Will do. Sharon Arteaga, thank you so much for your time. I wish you lots of success. God bless you and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Conversation with the people who were with me in the World TV.
And that's a wrap. That was really fun. Hey, if you're interested in watching When You Clean a Stranger's Home, an official selection at this year's San Diego Latino Film Festival, I'll have all the details in the show notes and on our website. The festival is virtual this year and runs March 11th through the 21st. When You Clean a Stranger's Home is available on March 13th. Gracias. Thank you for listening. Carlos Tonight is written and produced by yours truly, Carlos Correa. My theme was composed and performed by Sken Galis. Catch new episodes of the podcast every other Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, learn about the show and upcoming guests at carlostonight.com.
Historias de un reportero.